Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this Thursday's MBE movie news. What a start! I come in and we've got the stupid live stream starting soon, graphic up right away, so it's not a good start, guys. But we'll look to improve upon that start and get better as the show goes on, starting effective immediately. Look, do apologise for the delay as well. I was waiting a good 5 minutes there as I sort of chugged down a chocolate protein brownie, so we'll get that out of the way. That's gave me the energy to go into this amazing bit of news that's breaking regarding the MCU and of course Spider-Man 3. It's all about Jamie Foxx. By all accounts, he's back again as Electro now. As if one showing of a terrible Electro character wasn't enough, we are apparently getting two. And look, this is breaking from one Hollywood Reporter, and they've said, as you quite clearly see there, Spider-Man 3 joked. I see what you did there, Hollywood Reporter. Jamie Foxx returning as Electro. It's an exclusive to Hollywood Reporter, and they are saying he's in final talks to reprise his role in the latest Spider-Man installment, which will of course be starring Tom Holland once again, and it will be an MCU movie this time. It's not just a Sony Spider-Man movie. They've dated it, as they do say here, for the November 5th 2021 release slot. And yeah, this is very interesting. Marvel have made no comment as of yet. And look, here we go. What a shambles this show is, man. Jesus Christ. Look, I don't expect him to make comment because it's not yet confirmed. He's in final talks. It's not confirmed yet that he will indeed come back, but I think he will. And the question is, and look, the greater question, which has been pondered in another brilliant article by Forbes, is why is he returning again in Marvel's Spider-Man 3? And that's the question I think that will be on most people's lips over the course of the last 2 hours since this story broke. And the answer to that for me is I don't know, because I'm not Kevin Feige. I don't know why he's returning. Certainly it's not a villain that I would have chose to come back. If you were breaking the sort of the structure that you've had in place for this Spider-Man character over the course of the last 5 years or so, since his triumphant arrival on screen in obviously Civil War, then the structure being that they never brought back original villains that were already used in previous movies. If you were to break that, then surely to God you wouldn't use Electro as the one. It'd be something like Green Goblin or something like that you'd bring in. You wouldn't use something like that. He was a terrible character in Amazing Spider-Man 2, and it wasn't down to Jamie Foxx because he was a great actor and he remains a great actor. He's a very charismatic guy, but he just couldn't work miracles with a god awful story. It was just a 2D caricature villain with no real reason d'etre for anything that he was doing. All the great villains have real reason for their villainry, if you like. They, in their own minds, believe that they are right in what they're doing. That's why Thanos was such a compelling watch over the course of the Infinity Saga, because in his mind's eye, he was absolutely correct. And his vision of a universe which was less crowded, had more resources, and people in his mind would be happier, despite the fact they may lose their entire families and they could be the only people alive after a finger snap. In his mind, he was correct. And that's what made him such an intriguing character, because he was a villain who had a purpose and he wasn't 2D, he had some real meat and bones to him. That wasn't there with Electro in that movie, and it's because it was a standalone movie in a sense, really. It wasn't part of a sort of interconnected universe, and that is why this may not be the worst thing. Jamie Foxx coming back to portray Electro may not be a bad idea, because it might not be the same version of Electro, just like the J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson character, or Jonah J. Jameson, whatever he is, I think it's J. Jonah, is not the same version, clearly, as we've seen in these Sam Raimi movies in the early 2000s. That one had hair. It was part of the traditional media. This one we've seen at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home had no hair, and he was very much in the alternate media. He was doing a sort of web broadcast, on almost like an Alex Jones type figure, a Fruit Loop. So clearly having a nice little connection, a tie of connection, perhaps an alternate universe, which I'll get into shortly as well, is the main reason they picked J.K. Simmons to come back. And it may be the main reason they're picking Jamie Foxx to come back, but as they do say in this Forbes article, it'd be a sort of drop ball situation. If you throw away rifting like hell here. That protein brownie's coming back in me something terribly. I do apologise. It would be a thrown away opportunity to not utilise this multiverse. And I just feel like, and I'm going to get into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness in the very next topic, but I feel like this coronavirus and issues with obviously Sam Raimi stepping in for, oh god, what was his name again? He's blanking on his name. It doesn't even matter at the moment. The original director of Doctor Strange. I feel like that's thrown everything into a bit of a mess. It's chaos behind the scenes at Marvel Disney. They've had to rearrange things as best as they possibly could. The death of, sadly, Chadwick Boseman will further have thrown a bit of a spanner in the works for Disney. And I feel like if things had played out the way they originally were intended to, we would have seen Multiverse of Madness come out after WandaVision later this year, early next year. I can't recall the exact release date, but it was set to come out after the TV show. And then all of these multiverse experiences would have been explained a lot better. And I can't help but feel that this is a situation where it is going to bear into the events that have happened in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, WandaVision, and perhaps Loki as well. I can't see how they don't use him as the same character, even if it's a distinctly different version from perhaps a parallel universe. And I'm not averse to it, man. I just don't want to see him being the main villain in this movie. I think that would be terrible. I feel like the best way to do this movie now is to have a multitude of different villains, a gallery of villains, if you like, Multiverse of Madness happening within. And yeah, if we can have Electro as one of them. Jamie Foxx, not the worst actor in the world, let's be honest, as I did say, very charismatic guy. It may work, man. Sadly, I cannot read a single word of what you're saying there. Sorry, David. I think you're saying confirmed official. I don't know if it is. I feel like it's the Hollywood Reporter who have reported this, and they are suggesting that he's in final talks to come back in his role as Electro. So it's looking like it's going to happen for sure. I don't know if it's confirmed officially that he is definitely coming back, but it's very, very close indeed. And look, man, whatever it happens, however they fit him in, I'm happy. I feel like this is conclusion. Not conclusion, I'm tripping here. Confirmation. Finally, before I move on to the interconnected MCU topics that I have in place for the show, this feels to me like confirmation of those Andrew Garfield rumours that were swirling around that he was going to come back as a different incarnation of Spider-Man. We'd see the triumphant return of him, and perhaps even Tobey Maguire too. With J.K. Simmons coming back, Jamie Foxx coming back, it seems like we are having ourselves a little live-action Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse party here, that we're going to see reality bleeding, different versions coming in and out, and maybe they will help out Tom Holland's version, because he's in a bit of a pickle just now. He's been outed as Spider-Man and he needs some help. So that may be the way to do it. That may be the way they'll work it out, bringing in different versions of villains and of previous Spider-Man characters. I'm happy either way, man, to see what Kevin Feige's got in store for it, because I know it'll be good. I know it will. But look, guys, I'm going to move on to the next topic. Clear my nose. Get something going on with my nose here, but that's not what I'm speaking about. I'm speaking about Doctor Strange 2, and it apparently starting shooting very, very soon indeed. Benedict Cumberbatch has revealed that the movie will be starting extremely soon. I'm not even going to bring the article up from Collider, because in all reality it's one sentence. Late October or early November. That's essentially what he says. So it's starting later this year, and this is something that's continuing to be a thread of commonality, if you like. A lot of these big blockbuster releases, a lot of these TV shows are starting to see production kicking into gear at the end of this year. Fall, autumn, depending on where you're from, seems to be the common denominator. And I'm glad to see it, because with this coronavirus shenanigans happening, and the span on the works it's thrown in to that's obviously caused for the MCU and just movie releases in general, all of the delaying and stuff like that, delays to production. We've seen it with Mission Impossible 7, we've seen it with the Batman. Glad to see there's some semblance of normality coming back to the film industry, with these productions starting to step in to action once again. But look, this is great news, man, and look, the reason it's great news is because, as I did say, I feel like this is all interconnected. I feel we are going to go more cosmic. And the best way to go cosmic in this Phase 4 and into Phase 5 is to utilise Dr. Stephen Strange and his ability to go through different universes and into time, sort of, I don't know, different times and states of mind and whatnot. He's the man who can connect all of this madness together. And by all accounts, he's going to be appearing in WandaVision alongside Elizabeth Olsen, Scarlet Witch. And by all accounts, she's herself going to be playing a co-leading role in Multiverse of Madness. I feel like it's all going to come together. And I feel like the events of this movie and the events of the WandaVision TV show will have huge ramifications for Peter Parker, huge ramifications for Spider-Man 3, even though that will come out before Multiverse of Madness. I think it'll all be set before the events of Multiverse of Madness. And everything that happens in this movie is going to have a knock-on effect, and everything else we're going to see transpiring over the course of this new saga in the MCU. Can't wait to see Benedict Cumberbatch coming back. And the other thing that caught my eye was this little piece of information here, which I wasn't aware of. This little bit here, this snippet here, Michael Waldron, who's also writing on the up-and-coming Disney Plus series Loki, he will be rewriting the existing script of Multiverse of Madness. Scott Derrickson was the other director, incidentally. He'll be rewriting it for Sam Raimi. And again, Loki. That TV show seems as though it's going to have some time travelling stuff going on, with, by all accounts, having Kang the Conqueror coming in. He's coming in, I think it's Jonathan Majors who's playing him, rumoured. He's a guy who likes some time travel, shenanigans. The Time Variance Authority are already having been seen locking up Loki, and the actual little snippet we got of that TV show and those sort of amalgamated trailers we got a few months ago. So we know there's lots of shenanigans going on with time travel, and we know there's lots of shenanigans going on with multiverses, and I think it's all going to blend in to one homogenous, brilliant bit of storytelling from Kevin Feige and all of the aforementioned people involved, be it from the technical side, the writing side, everything. I can't wait to see this movie, man. I feel this is absolutely key for the MCU moving forward, and I'm glad because I love Cumberbatch and I think Stephen Strange is a brilliant character. He's so zany and different to any other character we've seen in the main lineup of the Avengers, and by all accounts Doctor Strange, a huge titanic figure in the actual Marvel comics for a number of years. He was sort of neutered, his powers were ridiculous back in the day, and it sort of reined him in. I'm trying to get this advert away for the next topic I'm going to be speaking about, which incidentally is going to be part of this, because I forgot to actually throw in the graphic and indeed to put it in the description, but that's because I wasn't going to talk about it, and then it caught my eye and I thought that's quite interesting, and this is the topic I'm going to be speaking about in this sort of amalgamated MCU discussion at the start of this show. It's all about obviously Miss Marvel, and Marvel launching its very first Muslim superhero on TV screens. It's a Pakistani American called Kamala who shapeshifts, and she's going to be shapeshifting her way onto Disney Plus. And by all accounts, I'm trying to find the name. It's Ayman. What is the actress's name? I'm trying to discover it. It's a terrible website, the Daily Mail. I hate giving them any hits because they are right-wing shitheads. It's Ayman Vellani, who is 18 years of age. She is going to be coming in to play Kamala Khan, of course, Miss Marvel. And this is a historic moment for the MCU by all accounts. This is the first proper Muslim character we're going to see, superhero, and again, representation, so important, diversity. Sorry, my nose is absolutely killing me here. So important, this came out of nowhere. I had no issues before this show. As soon as I go in front of a camera, I'm sniffing like a mad cokehead. But by all accounts, representation so important, man. I was speaking about it with obviously Chadwick Boseman's passing and what he done for the black community, showing them a face on the screen that they could be something better than what they are. They could be a Chadwick Boseman. They could rise up out of perhaps a minority community, perhaps a disadvantaged position, and be a Hollywood superstar and be a superhero on the screen, someone who's inspirational to thousands if not millions of people around the world. And this is what young Iman can be for the Muslim community. She can be a source of inspiration for thousands, millions of Muslims around the world who perhaps see themselves as having a career in Hollywood or in the film industry in their own specific regions. She could be an inspiration. And by all accounts, Kumail Nanjiani, who is playing a hero, and I keep saying by all accounts today, incidentally, I don't know what that's about. He is indeed a Muslim himself. I wasn't aware of that, but he says, and I'll try and get the quote, there you go, I just saw they cast Miss Marvel and legit get teary-eyed. Congratulations to Ayman Vellani. Your work is going to mean so much to so many people, myself included, and I can't wait. And the woman herself has been coming out and saying she genuinely can't believe it. she has been teary-eyed as well, but she's stunned that she's got the role. I have not got a clue who this young girl is. I was about to say it again. She hasn't had a hugely stellar film career as of yet. I think on IMDb, she has supposedly got links to cinematography work. Not a lot else, so I don't know how she's managed to bluff her way into this role, but good luck to her. I'm really intrigued by Miss Marvel. I think she's a pretty decent character in a similar vein to Carol Danvers, and she could have some influential moments in this MCU moving forward too. And with Kevin Feige saying time and again, guys, that these TV shows are going to be hugely important to keeping up with the continuity of the storytelling, not just on the Disney Plus side of things, but actually on the big feature length release side of things too, then I can't see how she won't have an influential effect on the new saga of the MCU. But look, I'm going to move on, man, to topic number 3, or 4 technically, on this show tonight. And it's all about Bill and Ted 3. Bill and Ted Face the Music, and how it's performed at the box office and on VOD. Well, first and foremost, it's not performed hugely well in the theatres. I think it grossed something like $7.8 million, which is a bit of a floppish performance in the theatres. But there's better news for this movie when it comes to its VOD release, because as you can see there from Screen Rant, this movie has grossed $32 million via digital purchases, rental. I don't know what it is. I've not watched it. I'm still catching up with the Bill and Ted stuff. Miles upon miles behind with it, so I have to watch the originals and then I'll watch the sequel first. That'd give the game away if I started with film number 3. But look, this is great news for Bill and Ted. It's grossed a very narrow profit. And look, it didn't have a huge budget, man. I think it's something like $25 million. The nature of the beast, they didn't really hugely go out their way to promote this movie. And of course, with it going to VOD primarily, they're not really giving a lot of the profit over to the theatres. It's mostly just going to be the studio themselves who are taking the majority of the profit. MGM were the main distributor. They didn't finance the film, and that's why it's not being viewed as a flop by all accounts. So look, hats off to Keanu, hats off to this movie, and hats off to whoever was responsible for taking the chance on releasing it straight to digital in the midst of a global pandemic, because it's paid off, and it's something we've seen with Universal with Trolls A World Tour. It's something we've seen to a lesser extent with Disney's Mulan. It has made less of a profit, but it had a bigger budget. But we're seeing that there is room for digital releases for movies like this, and even bigger movies perhaps, where they can perhaps forego the theatre release, sort of a traditional way of releasing a movie, and they can make money back, as provided that it's not obviously a $300 million movie or something like that, which is why we've not got Black Widow and indeed Wonder Woman 1984 popping onto VOD, because it's just not feasible from a financial standpoint. But look, I just thought I'd touch upon that because I found it rather interesting that, yes, this movie, it's sort of deemed a hybrid release. It got a short little theatre release in certain regions and then primarily on VOD, and the combination of those two things is netted at a very narrow profit. So hats off to them, man. They deserve all the success in the world. But look, guys, I'm going to move on to that. That's the wrong macro. This part of the show. There you go. Got the macro now. I like to call the blog rundown, where I touch upon the previous 3 movie reviews on our blog, on our website at movieburnerentertainment.org/blog that I didn't touch upon on the previous show. So, in other words, the most recent 3 movie reviews that we're sort of catching up on in this backlog that we allowed to sort of build over the course of the last 5 months. And look, the first one is coming in from Peter Plymouth, and indeed I believe all 3 are coming in from Peter Plymouth on tonight's show. And as you can see, I will bring the graphic up, hopefully. There you go. Proximity. It's a 2020 movie review, and it's coming from the bold Peter, the Belgian maestro, as I like to call him. And by all accounts, I'm just obsessed with saying by all accounts tonight. Jesus Christ. This is a very intriguing, if not slightly under par script of a movie. I don't know even if that makes sense what I've just said. The script is under par. The movie, the concept is intriguing. I think it's all about, clear my nose again, alien abductions and Peter goes on to say that the science fiction element of the movie, the actual special effects and stuff like that, are pretty decent. The actual alien craft that we see early on in the movie is decent, but sadly the script goes off kilter and we start seeing some strange Men in Black shenanigans, and it lets itself down at that point. But look, here is a summary of this review and of the movie in general. All in all, it's admirable that what they've achieved in this low budget science fiction movie, I want to say sci-fi. In terms of footage and imagery, the film is simply overwhelming. The special effects look fantastic. There's also little to complain about the acting itself. Mason's acting is almost perfect. Heidi Kuhn is a perfect addition, and the character Zed is highly entertaining. But unfortunately, it's especially the storyline that's below par. I suggest the Musée hires a professional script writer the next time to support his professional looking visuals. And yes, this is a guy who I think has worked on a number of very impressive movies in the past, and sadly it's not been enough to save this one, because E.T. jokes aside and an interesting concept for at least 2/3 of the movie aside, it falls flat in its arse, and that's a shame, because I do like a good alien abduction movie. That's why I was so attracted in TV show terms to the X-Files, because what they done with the whole Foxx Mulder sister thing for nigh on 7 seasons was absolutely gripping viewing. But look, I digress. I'm going to move on to the next review on this blog rundown, and it's Becky, as you can see. And I recall seeing the trailer for this. I don't think I reacted to it. I wanted to, but I never done for some reason. And as you can see right there, it stars the likes of Lulu Wilson, Kevin James, and Joe McHale. And it's about a neo-Nazi, in this case Kevin James, hunting down a young 13-year-old girl who, for whatever reason, gets embroiled with this guy. He comes to the house and creates a lot of nonsense. And the vibes I got from the trailer was it was very much like Home Alone meets neo-Nazism meets 2020. And reading through this review, that seems to be the case. As Peter rightfully says, it's a ridiculous concept. Not in any way, shape or form should a 13-year-old girl be able to take down 4 grown adult males. Shouldn't be able to happen. Just like Macaulay Culkin shouldn't have been able to take down these sticky bandits back in the early 90s, but he did. And it's just that suspension of disbelief that you have to have when you watch these movies that allows you to sit back and just become immersed in ridiculousness and, yeah, just enjoy it. And by all accounts, I'm using the phrase again, Peter did that, and he says, and I do believe it was this review, he says it just took him away from the whole corona shenanigans for a short while. And I'll get the summary up. I've already done it on the graphic. I'll bring the actual summary up on my iPad here. Yeah, and he says this: yes, Becky is a bit of a nonsense movie. The reason why these 4 idiots terrorise this family also remains a mystery. And what's the relationship between the gang members? Like Dominic and Apex, do they have family ties? And is the passing of her mother the only reason why Becky resolutely draws the card of revenge? Or does she have a more sinister past? But despite the lack of character development, I'm trying to find where I read that there, and substantive explanations, I'd say that Becky is an entertaining gory thriller, an adult Home Alone version, there you go, where creative assault weapons are manufactured, resulting in painful looking hidden metaphor by coincidence injuries. It's not one of the best revenge movies, but it's also not one of the worst. And like, this is something we've not seen enough of over the course of the last, I want to say 20 odd years. We've not seen a different take on the classic Home Alone revenge thing, where we have a young kid who is, there's a word I want to use, precocious in their ability to factor up brilliant plans to take down idiots we like to call them over here, in the most gory and gruesome manner. There's not enough of it, man. We've not seen, I don't recall any movies out with Becky even attempting it, and it's a shame because I loved Home Alone growing up, and it was such an interesting concept. Just the shenanigans you get up to, the brilliance of the little machinations that you put together in also the house to take down the bandits. And it was fascinating, and it was really armed with a brilliant performance from Macaulay Culkin. And look, this sounds like a very similar movie. It sounds a little less good than obviously Home Alone was, because it was an absolute modern day cult classic. But Lulu Wilson, by all accounts, I'm doing it again, very, very good in this movie. And Kevin James playing a distinctly different guy to that we're used to seeing from this man on obviously any form of entertainment, big screen, small screen. I think he's doing current cinematography things on YouTube, at least he was anyway, where he was sort of implanting himself into very famous movies and kidding on he was off camera, winding the actors up and stuff like that. Hilarious. My words and the way that I'm describing it don't do it justice, guys. But look, I'm going to round up the blog rundown tonight by speaking about the third and final movie, and it's also coming in from Peter Plumers, and it's Gretel and Hansel, and one which me and Stephen reacted to, the actual trailer, that is, not the movie. And I quite liked the look of the trailer, I have to say. I thought it looked really unearthing. This witch pulling hair out of her mouth, I think it was. And just the concept, the classic Brothers Grimm story, the classic German horror story, that's how you tell stories to your kids. Do the way the Germans do it, and you'll not go far wrong. These guys usually have their finger on the pulse. The Germans are better at everything 9 times out of 10. Lucky shits. And this story was a classic, tried and tested story, and as Peter does say, very deliberately, and look at that poster, fantastic, changed up the actual title. It used to be Hansel and Gretel, and by all accounts, I'm doing it again. I need to find another turn of phrase to sort of fill in what I'm wanting to say with that, because I can't keep saying by all accounts, it's doing my nothing. Hansel had a bigger role in the novel and in previous incarnations of this story, and they've flipped it up, and they've probably flipped it up because they've managed to acquire the acting talents and the brilliance of Sophia Lillis, who everything I've seen her in has been simply stunning. She was in a TV show with Amy Adams, which completely eludes me at the moment. I watched it all, and it was really enjoyable. She played the younger version. And also she's been in it Chapter 1 and 2, and she's really, really talented. And that's probably why they have flipped it up and gave her the meatier role of the two. Peter says it's a very mixed bag of a movie, but I'm going to get into the summary. And what appealed to me the most was the excellent cast. Alice Krieger, sounds German, don't know though, as the terrifying and devilish witch in particular was simply fabulous. She did look good, very unnerving. And Sophia Lillis also plays the role of Gretel convincingly, a young girl with unexpected future prospects, beautiful music and sound effects together with this used colour palette. That's something I always love, when they use subtle palettes to sort of convey a message to the audience. We've seen that in Hell or High Water, sort of mucky, earthy colour palette to really hit home and emphasise these were guys who were deeply connected to the land. They were locals, and these interlopers in the banks in that movie were trying to come in and take something that was theirs, and that's why they were so wronged. So I love it when they do that. But I digress, we'll get back to it. Provided a special atmosphere. Only the denouement, I don't know if I'm saying that word right, I found a bit unfortunate and not appropriate for slow tempo of the film. I can certainly enjoy a straightforward version of a fairy tale, but this contrary version managed to surprise me. Definitely a film for those who love aesthetically beautiful films, and I got that, Peter, I got that from the trailer, and just the sort of construct of the house, this strangely candy looking house, and I love it, man. I've not seen any other iteration of Gretel and Hansel or Hansel and Gretel. This may be one that I dive into. I recall seeing, I think it was Jans who reviewed it when it came out, whenever that was, and he wasn't really glowing of it. He says it was a strange movie that tonally was all over the place, I believe. He says it was something weird implanted into it as if it was from a different movie, and that kind of put him off it. But look, I'm a man who very much enjoys giving my own views and thoughts on a movie, and I like to consume it first. I don't really allow other reviews to sort of pervert my thoughts on a film, because that would be wrong. It wouldn't be a natural opinion to give if you're getting swayed by some other random individual. But look, I digress on that note. I've tried to sway many people with my movie reviews, and look, if one Peter Plummer can't sort of persuade you to watch a movie with his brilliance and his writing, then we're all screwed. And look, on that note, I'm going to urge you once again, go over to movieburnerentertainment.org/blog. I've still got weights to do, bear that in mind. It's very late, I've still got weight training to do. Pray for me, guys. I'm having a mare tonight. I'm hanging together. I'm not going to lie, hanging together. This has been one of the worst shows I've done in a long, long time, and yeah, I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. But look, I digress. We're going to move on that note. The blog rundown's done, and I'm nearly done as well, to the fourth topic and the penultimate, thank God. And it's all about Anne Hathaway and this lockdown heist pick that she has been joined to for a number of months now, and she's been joined by some really star-studded and tremendously talented company. Chiwetel Ejiofor, Ben Stiller, Lily James and more join Anne Hathaway in this heist, this untitled lockdown heist pick. And look, it really does intrigue me, this movie. And I'll bring up the Empire article, even though you're not getting Lily James, I think it says in here. I was about to say Lily. I always want to say Lily Evans. I don't know why, man. I don't know why. It's like Emily Watson and Emma Watson again. You're getting her cut out, and she's by far the better looking of the three people on that screen, so it's a travesty for you, but thankfully I can see her perfectly fine. And look, yeah, as I did say, man, a brilliant looking concept. There's Doug Liman, a great director, tried and tested director. He's done it over a number of years, and he signed up Anne Hathaway to this movie. It was a pandemic set blend of rom-com and heist movie. It's called Lockdown. That's the name of the movie. Jesus Christ, Sean, it has got a name. And look, it's moving apace, as they do say in this Empire article. It's already started production, and we have got the likes of Stephen Merchant, Jewel Hill, Jasmine Simon and Mark Gatiss also joining the cast alongside all of the aforementioned other actors that I mentioned. That's a star-studded cast. That's a whole melting pot of different types of actors in there. And this concept of a rom-com meeting a heist, it's very intriguing. The fact it's going to be shot in Harrods, I believe, in London, an absolutely iconic store. That is also very interesting. That lends another degree of authenticity. That we could see this being a case where it's set during a pandemic, aka coronavirus pandemic, and them utilising the curfews and lockdown to their benefit by also raiding a jewel store in Harrods. I love the concept, man. I love the cast he's putting together. The story sounds really, really intriguing. We know that Anne Hathaway can do heist movies. She's done it before. She done Ocean's 8, I believe. That one a couple of years ago. I slagged to hell. I finally watched it and I actually quite enjoyed it, in all honesty. So she is someone who can do the action genre. She also done that one with Rebel Wilson, which was a similar sort of roguish concept. So she's got that in her armoury. She can do that genre very, very well. And she has the charm to sort of play a romantic figure, even if she's perhaps playing the guy like a fiddle, like she kind of done with Christian Bale in The Dark Knight Rises. So yeah, this is one that really intrigues me, man. I like the sound of it, and the fact that we are seeing some interesting creative juices flowing from this pandemic situation. We've already got that one with John David Washington and Zendaya. It's been shot in the midst of a pandemic, and it's done. It's been bought up by, I think, I can't recall who bought it up. Was it Netflix? I think it was. And obviously we have this Michael Bay dystopian horror COVID pandemic movie where we never get a vaccine and we're locked in perpetual cycles of spikes and then it going back down and spikes. And of course Michael Bay would just have to do a movie like that because he's that type of guy, you know. Big action blockbuster with a shit story concept, because we're not going to be locked in multiple cycles. We will have a vaccine, I'm absolutely sure of it. But this is the best concept I've seen yet, utilising the idea of a pandemic and doing it nicely and implementing a heist into it. I love heist movies, man. But look, I'm going to move on because I'm gibbering away. I'm just gibbering absolute shit to the final topic on the show tonight. And as you can see, it's all about Henry Cavill. I'm ending on a nice easy one. One that I can speak about probably for at least a couple of minutes anyway and see the show out and not make myself look like a complete... I was going to say something there, but I reined it in. Gimp, that's what I'll use that. That's a little bit less profanity laden. And I'll bring it up. The man's been speaking about the Snyder Cut and why it's hugely important for not just Zack Snyder but for DC fans and maybe just for the people involved in the movie as well. They can be vindicated for putting their name against it, because Lord knows that bastardised version that Joss Whedon put out, I'd be embarrassed to put my name next to that. But look, there's what the man said. He says, I'm just really excited to see his vision realised. He got to be the train. I think it's only fair that the train gets to reach its station, which he was aiming for. And I think it's important that that vision is realised, whether you agree with it or not, and why wouldn't you? It doesn't matter. It's a storyteller's, it's a filmmaker's right to have that vision realised. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see what the vision was and how it looks. And I'm excited to see it, Henry, because as I've said before, time and time again, I firmly believe that this movie is going to replace the Joss Whedon version of Justice League in the canonical sort of order. I believe that will become an alternate universe after Flashpoint. They will rule it redundant, and we will see this mini-series, this 4-part mini-series on HBO Max become the new Justice League canon. Just the fact that he's got the heart and soul of Cyborg, the Ray Fisher character, which was so wronged in that movie. He was cut out, he was a joke. The fact that we've got better visuals that more closely represent what the actual comic book incarnations of the characters were. The fact that we're getting the canonical comic version of Superman coming back from the dead, resurrecting with the black suit. It's just a better version. We've got all sorts of... My nose is incredible. Actually, what is going on? Seriously, I think I've took an allergic reaction to that protein brownie. Wow. It's running. It's actually... Jesus Christ, man. I'm going to end this show very, very quickly. But the fact that it's got all of these sort of things going on, it's got a better version of Steppenwolf. We've got the other villain that completely left my brain, who was set up to be the main man in a trilogy of Justice League stories. It's just tailor-made to take and carry the baton on for a new DCEU. And I cannot wait to see it, man. I cannot wait to see the man's vision. I cannot wait to see how good a job he does of bringing his cut of the movie up to standards. Will it look like it was made for the theatres, or will it look like a $75 million miniseries? I don't know what that even means, because $75 million is ridiculous. That's a huge amount of money. But look, I'm excited. I can't wait to see the reshoots and what the hell he's adding in. I can't wait to see everything about it. And I'm completely contradicting myself, because a few months back I was completely ambivalent towards the concept of a Snyder cut. But I've changed my mind, having seen the passion of the man and realising the wealth of content he has at his disposal. I've completely flip-flopped. And on that note, I'm going to end the show, guys. What is your thoughts on the array of topics I've spoken about? My nose is ready to be ripped off my face here. I feel like Michael Jackson in that Eminem video. What do you make about Jamie Foxx returning as Electro? Do you think it's a terrible idea? Or do you think, like me, that they could utilise it to their own sort of positive whims? They can bring him in, maybe an alternate version from a different universe. Do you think this will all flow from the multiverse of madness like I do? Do you think WandaVision and Doctor Strange 2 are going to be absolutely pivotal for this phase moving forward? What is your thoughts on the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness movie starting shooting in just a couple of months' time, a month or so's time? What do you make about this casting of Miss Marvel? Do you think that's highly important, a significant moment for Muslims around the world, that they are getting to see representation in the form of a comic book superhero on the big screen? Small screen on this case, because it's Disney Plus, but she'll pop up in a movie. You just know she will. What do you make about Bill and Ted making $35 million? What's your thoughts on the blog rundown? What do you make about that lockdown movie starring a whole array of amazing actors? And finally, do you agree that what Henry Cavill says about this being an incredibly important thing, this Snyder cut, that Zack deserves to see his vision realised on the screen? If you've got anything to say at all, guys, about any of the topics, you can comment below and let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see me tripping out my box, sniffing crazily and saying the same phrase 50 million times again and again and again. And look, if you do subscribe, that's precisely what you'll get. But look, until then, on the note of my dog thumping away like a lunatic rabbit, I'll say bye-bye.